Are you ready?
I am. Are you ready?
I'm ready
now. No,
yeah.
There's no one else in the room.
Well, we just did the podcast while we were waiting for the cameras to be set up. So we know what we're talking about.
We do. And we did it last night on the train.
And we did it last night on the train. Because last night we were on the train home from an event held by the Buy Women Built group, BUY.
Yeah.
Women.
Not BY.
Not BY.
I made the mistake. Dyslexic. It's okay. Found them on Instagram eventually.
You're not on Instagram.
No, we are. It's spelled differently. Sorry, guys. My bad.
So yes, Buy Women Built, which is, what would you call it?
Like a
network?
Like a networking hub, I think, of like very empowered women from really successful companies, like founders.
Yeah.
And I guess they hold a space for us all to come together and do cool things. And what we did last week was mega cool. We took over the windows of Whole Foods, which is major on High Street Ken. Major. And tomorrow, that's even more major.
Tomorrow, yes.
Yeah, all the advertising, bus stops, tube, everything on High Street Kensington has been taken over by all of us.
Yeah.
For the International Women's Day for the whole day.
Yes, and we should give credit.
Yes.
It's been donated by JC Deco.
Yeah, but everyone should go check it out.
Everyone goes, it's a whole of March.
Yeah,
High Street Ken, Whole Foods, all our faces.
40 women. And basically the reason they've done it is because of the stats, right? So 80% of kids, 81% can't name a female founder. And I think they said if women got the same investment as men in the UK economy, it would be like 300 million.
Well, you and I share the inability to
retain numbers and look at numbers.
It was in the billions.
It was in the millions. It was a lot, but basically females founded brands don't get as much airtime.
Yes.
And actually seeing the faces, or investment, but seeing the faces behind those brands, ones that I use every day, to be fair, I did know they were women, but most people don't. That's actually very cool.
What's interesting is that kids, but maybe, because I was thinking Charlotte Tilbury springs to mind, who we will go on to talk about, because you were part of her team.
Yes.
Her name is on the packet.
That's the thing, yeah.
But they didn't even think of her. But then I think my daughters would know because they use her makeup.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it is...
But I wonder if they would see makeup as an entrepreneurship. I don't think they would. I think people see tech. I think people see like...
Yes.
I don't know, not everyday products, maybe. I don't think they would associate it. So maybe that's part of the problem. They don't understand that actually... Because even when I grew up, this is kind of going on to it, but I didn't know that beauty was an industry. Like really, at school, nobody really taught me. And,
no, you're right.
Or makeup. I didn't know you could be a makeup artist.
No.
That's not a job. What?
No.
It is. And so like maybe those positions and those jobs are not seen as highly as others.
They're not manly.
They're not manly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Although all men run all beauty companies, which is mad to me.
Right.
Yeah,
because most beauty companies are owned by a couple of, I imagine.
Yeah, Estée Lauder, L'Oreal.
Right.
The big ones.
Yeah.
It's
LVMH.
different. Yeah, LVMH, but they're all run by men.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
Revlon, he was a man.
Oh, wow.
Charles Revson was Revlon, who created Nail Varnish. Yeah, from car paint, actually. Very toxic.
Wow.
But that's what they used to use. Yeah.
Sheesh.
Yeah, he's got a very interesting biography. I'd highly recommend reading it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. I like having nail varnish on, but I hate the smell.
It's not good for you.
I can't bear it.
Your nails need to breathe.
Yes.
Yeah, no, car paint on the nails.
Yeah, I don't like it when my girls go and get acrylics.
No, awful. Well, so bad for the planet.
What are you doing?
The plastic stays in the ocean.
Of course.
And gel nail varnish is actually the number one thing you should get rid of if you're trying to be more sustainable, is when you peel it off, all those bits are microplastics and they go in the ocean.
I had never thought of that.
It's just plastic. Yeah, so please avoid.
Are there any nice skin-friendly, eco-friendly nail varnishes? There are, right?
There's some that got minus, I think it's 8 ingredients. It's the dirty 8, I think.
Right.
That might be vegetables. It's one or the other. There is a few, but there's a friend of a friend who's just launched a sustainable press-on nail kit. So it's not plastic, it's biodegradable materials. It's really cool. It's like acrylics, but they're biodegradable.
That is cool.
I can't remember the name, Claws. Oh. Yeah, she's part of like my group of brands. But yeah, she's really cool. So there are options coming out there.
Nice.
But they're not great.
No.
Have natural nails, gals.
Yeah, well, yeah that's what I do. But yeah, nails is a big thing now.
Big thing. But yeah, the beauty industry is...
So that leads us nicely into your background.
Yes. It's been a journey.
I think it's very interesting, having heard some of it last night on the train.
Yes. So I'll run through it.
Yes, and actually to preface that, I think this is really interesting for people to hear, because you now have launched your own skincare brand, which we'll go on to talk about. So,
yes.
And you're a young woman.
Well, yes, early 30s.
Yes.
It's
It's young to be launching a brand.
Yeah.
I think it's very young and impressive. So, yes, tell me your story.
So, so My Skin Feels, my brand, came out of the learnings I've had. So I've been in the beauty industry for over 10 years now, and I actually started when I was 19. And this goes back to when not knowing that being a makeup artist was a job and it wasn't a thing you could do. So I was at school, went to university, failed my A-levels, as you do, and ended up on a random course at a random uni that I didn't want to do. And so I changed course, and they said, take a year out and go and do something you've always wanted to do. Always wanted to be a makeup artist. I don't know why. It was always just in my soul to do it. So I went to a school in London for 8 weeks and trained as a makeup artist. It was a very high fashion makeup place, and I was so young and I had no money, and there were like all these cool like 30-year-olds and me. And then after I left, there were all these posters on the wall, and I had every single one on my wall at home, like all like different models, like Vogue magazines. And the owner of the school was like, oh, they're all by Charlotte Tilbury, and I didn't know who she was. Like, she wasn't famous if you didn't know of who she was back then. And then Charlotte Tilbury wanted an intern to go and work for her. So 2 days after I left that, I had an interview, became her intern for 2 days, and then the PA who hired me left, and I became her PA at 19.
Wow.
And I literally moved to London, had no money. I was actually working in Brighton in a wedding dress shop on the weekends to pay for the week in London. And then saw some crazy stuff as a very young PA. And when I started, it was like Charlotte, me, her assistant, and one other person. So it was very, very small. And always knew the brand was incoming. But we actually did the Tom Ford makeup collection, and we worked with MAC, and we did all the fashion weeks. And then the initial Charlotte Tilbury team came in. And yeah, it was crazy. I saw that go from an idea, literally, all the way to launch in America. And then I left after that. And what Charlotte Tilbury, the brand, is now, I cannot tell you how big it is compared to where it was when it started. Our office was above a garage.
Wow.
Above a taxi rank.
Yeah.
And we had no hot water. And I remember being like, there's no hot water. This is ridiculous. And it's gone on to be like the biggest brand ever.
It's phenomenal.
Phenomenal. And I saw some amazing, I went to do all the fashion weeks, New York, Paris, Milan. It was amazing. And so I was the social media manager, and that was when Instagram started. And so I've literally been doing social media since Instagram basically started for other brands, and going backstage and taking backstage forward. And there's lots of articles I've got from like 10 years ago about like first ever makeup artist backstage, and it was me like backstage. It was amazing.
That's so cool.
And yeah, saw some crazy stuff.
Have you got any crazy stories you can tell us without getting sued?
Yes. I do have the best story of my life, and everyone I know knows the story, but I did go to the Golden Globes after party, and it was amazing. And people thought I was a celebrity, and I was not. And I was very young, and it was mental. It was like a real Hollywood moment. And then I remember actually a real significant moment. I was in Milan Fashion Week. I was 21, and I was sitting in the bar in the Principe, which is a hotel that all the people stay in. So all the assistants stay in, like Milan and somewhere shitty, and we stayed in this bougie hotel. And I remember this famous model coming up to me and being like, "You've made it." I remember being like, what? And he was like, you've really made it. You're in the Principe Hotel in Milan Fashion Week. You've made it. And I remember at that point thinking, if this is making it, I'm done. Like I was like, is this what everyone is so stressed trying to reach, is to sit here?
Sit at the bar.
This week I didn't even drink. I was drinking water. I was like, if this is it, I am out. And that was a really significant moment to be like, I've done everything I can do in this industry at this level. I need to leave. And I was literally 21, which was mental. So it was a very cool experience, and she is such an inspiration in so many ways. Even from what I'm doing now, just never say no. She always said like never take no for an answer. Like you've got to keep going, keep pushing forward. You'll get there eventually, and that was quite an important thing that I've taken from that journey. And also just seeing honestly an idea going from that to where it is was really impressive and amazing. Sort of money can't buy experience that. So it was very cool.
Especially so young.
I was so young and naive. And it was a Devil Wears Prada. The industry is chaos. Honestly, I can't watch that film because the industry is utter chaos.
Actually like
it's
that?
It's actually that. I've been in scenes from that film where it's actually happened.
Wow.
And it is a bit of a trigger, that film, for me now. I can't watch it.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad I saw it so young, because I think I'd be chasing it. I think I always wanted to work in fashion, always wanted to be like that person. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I got there, it was instantly like, this doesn't align with me and my values at all. Mm-hmm. And I'm really glad I saw it, got in, got out, and was okay with that.
So you are like the Anne Hathaway character.
I kind of left in the same way. I'm not going to lie. I didn't throw the phone, but it was, yeah. It was an interesting time. But Charlotte's mate, honestly, it was like really amazing to be in that space and watch her and learn so much from not just her, the whole team. Like all the guys that were in it with me, we're all still friendly. Yeah. And it's it was an amazing time.
Yeah. Well, and how brilliant of you at such a young age to go, oh, Charlotte Tilbury, I want to work there. And to learn from someone like that really early on.
Yeah, and also a bit fate. Like, it's sort of all unfolded. Like, I feel like seeing the posters on the wall and then being like, who's that? And then it all sort of happening. It was very strange how it all unfolded. And there's definitely a reason for us to work together. However you view it, fate or whatever it is. But it did feel very much like I was meant to be there. I was meant to see that. I was meant to learn. And then I was meant to set a precedent.
Yes.
But it was really cool. And like, that is a big, I was talking to another team member who was there at the same time the other day, and she was like, some of my proudest moments are from there. And I would actually agree with her, although it was highly stressful. I would say some of the big moments that happened in those 4 years. Like, really, like, the stuff we did was really cool and quick and fast. And like, having read all those biographies from all those beauty founders, Estée Lauder, Revlon, it was like another of those. And when her book comes out, her biography, it's going to be like, I've already read this because I read Revlon, and it was a similar thing. So it was very cool to be part of something so changing in the industry, but also good to leave and to go to the other side of the industry. Yeah. And see. So I then went to natural and organic and spa and tried to kind of understand if it could be more ethical. Like, corporate beauty is corporate beauty. It's you're there to make money, and it's there to like sell product. And obviously she had a real ethos to her brand, which is amazing, and wanting women to feel more confident. Love it. But I wanted to see if there was a way of it being more grounded and more in my values. Turns out it wasn't at all. No. It was actually worse. It was I ended up working for a spa brand that claimed very ethical things, and it really wasn't. And then after that I went freelance for about 7 years and worked for a lot of sustainable, really great brands. But it was really seeing like the Charlotte kind of push and tenacity and drive, and then seeing the industry and what it isn't, which helped me to launch this. Because how I've launched My Skin Feels is very transparent, very ethical, very sustainable, because I'm trying to prove a point that the industry is not like that. And if I can do it on my own, then we need to be doing better. And there's a lot of stats in other industries, fashion industry, about how bad it is to the planet. We know how much clothing is going to landfill. We know all that kind of thing. We don't know how much plastic in the ocean is from the beauty industry. There's no stats. We don't know how many Clarisonic, remember the Clarisonic cleansers?
Oh yeah.
How many of them are in like a landfill somewhere and like polluting the
those
earth?
Ferreo ones now.
Yeah, exactly. Just plastic's going to live forever. And all these brands that keep launching all these plastic, like Hailey Bieber, the Rode phone case that just launched. She just launched a phone case that had a lip gloss holder in the back. It's like genius marketing, but it's a plastic phone case. It's going to be around forever. And the fact that people are allowed to launch things like that in this day and age gives me so much rage. So I'm trying to prove that it doesn't have to be like that. Yeah. And it's conscious capitalism, conscious consumerism, not just like buying for money's sake. So that's really what the brand is about. And it's made from rescued food.
Right. So explain
My Skin
everything
Feels.
And the rescued food, which I
love. My Skin Feels is skincare made from rescued food. So it's made from the byproducts of tomato ketchup, olive oil, orange juice, and breakfast oats. So it's a weird salad that you'd never eat, but very good for your skin. And I basically take the byproducts. So I take the skin of the tomato, I take the crushed olives, and I take the stalk of the oat, and then I ferment them a bit like kombucha, in layman's terms, kind of, to get the antioxidants, vitamin C, and the antimicrobial properties, and then that's what goes in the skincare. So it's the best bits of the ingredients that we take, extract, and put in the products instead of using new ones. And the orange juice actually means there's no new water, so the water's recycled from the orange juice industry as well. And then it's all in aluminium. I actually had to invent the box, so it's in like a thinner box.
Yeah, I think there's so many things to say about this. Points. But right, let's come back to the box though, because I think that's genius. So without giving away any secret information, how did you come up with the idea of using the rescued food? And then did you have to go and find the food and the people who would give you...
So I have a formulator that I work with. So I basically found this amazing guy, again, a bit like fate. He's wonderful. He's Italian. and basically hence the Italian food waste. And I said to him, this is what I want to do. I want to make a really sustainable brand, natural. These are the kind of textures I want. And it was just when food waste was becoming a thing that can be used in cosmetics. It was very new. And so we basically picked out the things that we want for the products and what the replacements would be with food waste. And actually then we had to tweak everything to make it work. So it was a bit like a recipe, actually, more like a recipe than normal. And that's how we did it. So it was him and I coming together to kind of work out what could be the most sustainable thing ever and working together on it. Yeah, and the reason it's Italian food waste and not UK food waste is at the time the UK wasn't really set up as well as Italy, and we worked with the University of Bologna, and Italy is really organic, and actually an Italian tomato is a better tomato. You know, it's full of sunshine. It's a luxury product, and I have been looking at UK food waste for the next ones, but the options are like kale and cabbage. It's not quite as sexy as a tomato and an orange. So I'm working on what to do next, but at the moment it's Italian, which I'm not mad about.
And I've used your face wash. I haven't used your moisturiser.
Well, the moisturiser is the hero, actually.
So talk me through the moisturiser.
So the moisturiser, an accidental hero, like I love both products. The moisturiser is the hero. It's because it's got the fermented oats and the fermented olive oil in it. So the oats are prebiotic and antimicrobial. So you know a lot of oat brands are good for eczema. Right. But mine, when you actually break down the stalk of the oat, the prebiotics are in the stalk. So a lot of companies use oat powder or like extract from oat, the actual oats, but the stalk is more intense. So I'm having a lot of accidental effects on eczema, which I'm not allowed to technically, I can't say it's for eczema.
Of course not.
But it is doing some like really great things for sensitive skin and inflammation and eczema.
Fab.
And because of the makeup artist background, I wanted it to sit on the skin and like work really well with makeup and be very soothing and hydrating, and that's what it does. And the products are not anti-aging. They're not, I'm never going to market products about changing your face. It's never going to it's going to diminish fine lines. It will do because it will hydrate your face, but that's not my marketing.
Yeah.
It's never, I'm not here to say this is going to make you look different. It's going to make you feel different, which will make you look different, but I'm not here to change how you look. So that's the real point of difference in my skin feel. It's all about feeling your skin and getting in touch with your body and getting in touch with your mind and how you feel, rather than actually looking in the mirror and being like, I need to change this. That's the ethos. Anti-TikTok, you know? Yeah. Yeah. Not about buying something because it looks good on TikTok. It's about buying it because it makes you feel good.
Like Drunk Elephant.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good brand. Like,
yeah.
It's just TikTok's gone off.
But it's,
it's just run away from it. Yeah, which is sad. Yeah. Really plasticky, Drunk Elephant.
I said to my youngest, who's really obsessed, and I don't let her use it because...
Well, you shouldn't.
Of all the reasons. Yeah. So she has an old pot of mine, and then she's put her CeraVe basic stuff inside the pot, 'cause it's just the pot she likes.
Yeah, because the colours, right?
Yeah, and then I said, I thought you youngsters were meant to be, really caring for the environment, and what's with all this,
Plastic.
And she said, well, you can buy refills actually, Mummy.
There you go.
Right.
Told you.
It's got an answer.
Right, thanks. Good.
But I'm really excited about that because my eldest has horrific eczema, which has really flared up with exam stress, and she does use all sorts of things, but Aveeno is one, but it doesn't really do anything. It sells Aveeno.
Yeah, give it a go.
Not that we'll kill their business. It's so huge.
Jennifer Aniston has their spokesman.
Jennifer Aniston.
Yeah. Not bashing it as well. Like, if it works for you, it works. But
this
as a natural product.
I'm very excited.
Yeah.
And then what I also think is genius is your packaging.
Yes. So I'll
Talking
show you
about
this one.
packaging.
So it was the biggest journey was the packaging, actually. So I'm not launching in plastic. Basically, when I launched the brand, the trigger for me launching it took me 3 years to actually be like, should I do this or not? So I didn't just want to launch a brand. Kylie Jenner launching plastic face wipes in like 2018 was a real trigger for me. I was like, if she is allowed to launch plastic face wipes...
Are they actually plastic?
Well, they're not biodegradable. They're not bamboo.
Right, so
they're sitting in a,
sort of like nappies.
Yeah, basically. How that is allowed, this is 2018, I think, how that's allowed in 2018, with all the money in the world... that was a real, I was like, I'm going to do this. And then the second thing is I went to a packaging show in Paris, and I went to be like, okay, I'm going to find an innovative solution for my products. There'll be something here. It's huge. It was huge. I incidentally got COVID from it, which I think is part of the story. And I went on a sustainability tour of the show, and I went to a mascara manufacturer who was super proud about making a wand that was 5% less plastic. And I was like, you're proud about 5% less plastic in 2020? I was like, what are we doing? And I recorded myself on the way back on the Eurostar. It's on my Instagram, my first ever post. And I was like, I'm doing it. This is it. This is why I'm making a brand, because I'm going to prove that it can be done better.
It can be done.
And
Yeah.
it's never going to be 100% sustainable. It's just not possible.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had to I've had to like go back and think about what's the best option at every moment. So the packaging I invented, so it fit the tube, sorry. All the square ones have got so much air, they take up so much space shipping, it's a nightmare. So we did that. And then the tubes are aluminium, they're very jazzy. They're very jazzy. But the aluminium comes from Germany, not China. So I did no cargo shipping, which is a huge problem.
Yeah.
The caps are obviously plastic, but there was no solution.
But they're white.
They're white, they're
So
thinner,
they're
they're more recyclable.
Yeah.
They're thinner because they're flip top, not screw top, so they're more recyclable, like thinner. But I either shipped 50,000 from China, not knowing where the aluminium came from, not knowing how it gets to me, and it's cargo shipped, or I get it trucked from Germany and I know where the aluminium comes from. And my supply is great. So that was the bit that is a bugbear. And I'm mad about it, but I'm also glad because it proves my point. The industry is not set up. I came up with a million solutions that we could have done to get rid of this, but the industry, it couldn't happen.
Right.
Testing, or it has to be the same lid over every type of tube. It was a nightmare and I couldn't afford to do it. So that is the bugbear, but everything else is the best version of a bad option.
Yes.
So you can never be 100% sustainable, but if you can prove if you can do more than L'Oreal,
Yeah.
or like Ethel
Yeah.
on your own, then
Yeah.
I don't know why
Why can't they do it?
Why are they not using wastewater?
Yeah.
Like, it's insane.
Yeah. Why aren't they?
I don't know.
using wastewater?
It's really expensive. The most expensive ingredient was the water, which is really annoying because it was going to go down the drain.
Wowzers.
I know. And I was like, can I just have it? And they were like, no. It's really annoying. So it's expensive, and that's why the products are priced as they are. But it's proving a point, and people are loving it because it works with your skin. Like natural products and food-based products, even though they're a cosmetic, your skin knows how to work with it. So it's not something your skin's like, what is this thing I'm trying to understand? I don't know how to use it. Your skin can work with it because it recognises it.
Right. Which is the same with synthetic foods and weird
supplements
ingredients and supplements
exactly.
that your body goes, I don't know what this is. So your liver then has to process it.
And try and work out how to use it. Yeah, it's exactly the same. And for your liver as well, beauty products.
Right.
Your skin is the biggest organ. So if you're putting synthetic products on there, it's mental. Plastic products, nail varnish.
Yep.
Mental.
I've read some stat, you might know it, how many chemicals on average a woman puts on their skin a day.
I read it. It's like 81, I think.
Yeah, it's loads.
It's a lot.
And then you think about all the different things.
All the makeup products.
All the makeup products.
I'm not saying don't use them. Just be conscious about what you're using. Deodorant really, and body cream for me.
Deodorant is the one thing, and shampoo, because I have hair loss, but deodorant is the one thing that I really...
Yeah.
Because makeup, I struggle a little bit.
Yeah, makeup too.
It's quite hard.
I've got the best deodorant though. If anyone,
What's
I'm
your
plugging
deodorant?
them here. I've been on the natural deodorant journey for about 10 years.
Yeah.
It takes 6 months for your body to get used to it. 3 to 6 months. Because you're meant to sweat. And if you've been wearing antiperspirants, you're like, what's happening? Why am I sweating?
Yeah.
But with natural deo, you'll sweat, but you won't smell.
Yeah.
So it's just getting used to it. The best ever one, massive plug, is Fitbit. I love it.
Oh, I don't know.
It's
that
owned
one.
by a woman. It's like very
Fitbit.
hippie. It's called Fitbit.
Is that a British brand?
Yeah, I think it's in
Nice.
Cornwall or Devon. I can't
Oh,
remember. It's in a pot and you have to like rub it in.
Oh, okay.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And then Act is the cool one.
Yes,
AKT,
which I've tried.
also great. But Fitbit honestly is I would highly recommend.
Because I use plugging a big American brand, the Marlin and Getz one, the eucalyptus one.
Yeah, it doesn't work for me, that one.
Yeah, it kind of works for me.
It does it, yeah.
Yeah, the deodorant one is the one that stressed me the most with the aluminium and
Yeah, it should.
breast cancer.
It really should. And just it's in your glands, isn't it? So
Yeah.
stay away, gals and guys.
I know. I really nag my kids about it, but they, teenagers get really self-conscious, but also they sweat quite a lot.
Yeah.
So I always come back with these natural deodorants. They're like,
what
Mummy,
I need Shaw. Impulse. Give me some Dove.
where's the what's that hideous one the boys
Lynx.
wear? Lynx.
Give me the Lynx.
Where's
Africa.
the Lynx?
Lynx
Africa.
I mean, I was in my early 20s when I did it, and it did take a while. But now I don't even need to wear it some days.
That is so interesting.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because I was talking to our second episode is Tanya Borowski, who's a nutritional therapist, women's health expert, functional medicine practitioner. And we're doing another episode all about the menstrual cycle. And one of the things we talked about is that switching off of your hormones when you take the contraceptive pill.
Nightmare, yeah.
And it's this idea of switching
Things
bodily functions off. That
because
is,
they're seen as
inconvenient
and also like
unseemly.
And is that just the patriarchy telling you can't sweat?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah,
like you got to have waxed legs.
Yeah, and nail varnish. Like again, it goes back, but like that is part of it.
But it's switching off. So switching off your sweating, which is a really important bodily function.
Yeah. It's mental. Switching off your hormones.
Switching off your hormones.
Yeah. It's all crazy. Dyeing your hair. I hate that. I like grey hair. Why can't we have grey hair?
Yeah.
But men can.
Yeah.
I don't understand. In COVID, I went super grey.
Are you grey?
Yeah, so grey underneath this. Yeah. Which is cool if it all went grey. But like, it hasn't. But I can't have it. So hence the red.
And why can't you have it?
I don't feel I can. I just feel as a 32-year-old, I feel like I just can't. Like it's not acceptable in society to have. So I just don't.
Well, I feel it's not acceptable to have thinning hair.
Yeah, it's the same thing, isn't it?
Your cleanser and moisturiser, are they for a particular person, age,
skin
or
type?
is it for everyone, skin type?
I've designed it so it's for everyone. Natural products are great for all skin types and tones, really. But the oats in there are the balancing. So if you've got oily skin, it'll help to balance your skin out, but also super soothing, so it's good for dry skin. What I'm finding and I'm loving is that a mum will buy it, and then their partner will use it, and then their kids will use it, and it's becoming one product per house instead of one each. So it's even more sustainable. It's like a household face wash and a household moisturiser. Teens are really loving it, and I actually get a lot of male customers. I've done lots of pop-ups and markets and a ton of them in the last year, and men will just buy it without even knowing what it is. So interesting to me. I didn't even, because I designed it very gender neutral and funky and cool, Brighton-y, and men are just like, yeah, I'll take one of each. And I'm like, do you want to know what's in it? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, cool. So it's having, a crazy effect on.
Do you think that's because they think you're lovely?
No, I think it's the packaging. I think it's the packaging. It's all jazzy, and they're like, that looks cool.
I think it's also you.
I would like to say that, but I don't think it is. I think it's the packaging.
Are they 30-something men that are buying it?
No, older. They're actually older men.
Men are good shoppers though, because my husband, if he finds something he likes,
just buy it forever and ever.
He buys it forever and in bulk.
Yeah, that's what people are doing.
And then he just buys it again. He's like, right, I've got my year's worth of body lotion that he likes, and he buys like a big vat of it.
It's a risk, isn't it? As a woman, we'd never do that.
Oh, that's boring.
It's
what
boring.
If I want to change?
Yeah, and what if it doesn't work one day and you've got a vat of... Yeah, I know. Well, hopefully this will always work. But no, it's definitely teen skin friendly too. I actually did an Avon style party the other day.
Oh,
so I met these two amazing mums, who wouldn't mind me saying, in Whole Foods, and we got chatting, and they're from Brighton, and I instantly know when people are from Brighton. It's like an immediate bond, and you're like, oh my god, me too. And they had two daughters, and this whole Sephora kids thing was coming out about kids wearing retinol and like going into Sephora and buying crazy products, not knowing what they are. And so I said it's really good for teens, and they said their teen daughters would love to hear it from you. They won't listen to us because we're the mums. So I went to their house the other weekend, and I had tea and cake, like croissants, with her and her kid and her kid's best friend, and we talked about the beauty industry, and we talked about products that are safe for their skin and why they shouldn't be using XYZ and why TikTok is so dangerous and all this kind of stuff, and they loved it and I loved it, and it was so great. It was like an Avon style party with kids, like going to teach them about the beauty industry, and it was really cool.
I wonder if you could come and do that at my girls' school.
That's what I said, because another school, I did Brighton Met, so I went and did a talk about being a female in business at Brighton Met, and Brighton Met, the kids there have had tough times.
Yeah, I did a bit of mentoring there a few years ago.
And they were so great, and they didn't know that beauty industry was a job.
No, what?
I was like, where do you think, like, all the, when you go to Superdrug and you look at Rimmel and all this, like, where does that come from? And they were like, they didn't see it as they didn't see it as a career. And so I was like, if you ever want to come and intern, and two of them have messaged me since, and it was really cute. Yeah. So that's quite a big passion for mine, and I'm really glad it's resonating with kids too.
I'm really excited about it because I've got 3 teenagers, as you know, and my youngest, who's very into Sephora-esque products that she really doesn't need.
Yeah, that's the thing. You don't need to be changing your face with retinol.
No.
And it's damaging. It's so damaging for your skin. And even for adults, like, all the derms will be like, but it's strong chemicals. So, like, if you need to use it, use it. If you don't, don't. And it's not a one shoe fits all, one size fits all. Everyone's skin is different. Every skin tone is different. So you've got to work what works for you. But kids should be using natural products. Feel very strongly about that.
Well, I'm going to get my kids. Well, my son's actually already using your face wash.
And it's good for the teenage boys. Yeah, oily skin.
Yeah,
get all the sweat off.
Yes,
and get them to wash their face. I did a survey before I launched with 300 people, and the amount of people that said they don't wash their face. Men and women in London. I was like, guys, the pollution.
Never wash their face.
And so it's all about re-educating and that kind of thing. Which leads on to why it's called My Skin Feels, actually. It's called My Skin Feels.
Let's go there.
So actually the food waste is almost separate. I was always going to be sustainable. So anything I launched was going to be sustainable. It's not really the main story of the brand, but it is because it's different and innovative. The main story of the brand is it's called My Skin Feels because I'm trying to get people back in touch with their feelings. And as you know, I do another job, which we'll get onto in a minute, which I see people quite often on a feelings level where they're not connected to their body or to their feelings. And especially men, no offense men, and especially teens, they haven't been taught self-care like we have as women. And for me, when I have really bad anxiety or a bad day, going home and washing off the day and starting again is my like reset and gets me back into my body. And if I can encourage people to wash off the day, tune in with how their skin feels first, we might get to how they feel. So it's a real tool for getting into your mental health and getting into your self-care routine without being woo-woo and without being like, here's a face wash to wash it off. It's like, it's a really fun face wash, but it will also wash off your day and it'll make you feel better. So that's kind of what the brand ethos is really about. And it's really about how we live down here. Like Brighton is so that way of life. It's a super conscious place to live. It's very wellness orientated. And it's all about looking after yourself. And that's something that people do not do enough. So that is the purpose of the brand. It's all about, and if you can be more conscious to yourself, you're going to be more conscious of the planet. So it's an all-encompassing holistic view. And as the brand grows, that will get stronger too. It's all about connecting back in. It's important.
I love that because people are so disconnected. And your body's telling you stuff all the time. And it might be you experience it as a craving.
Sugar craving, something.
And your body's trying to tell you something. I need this, I need something.
Because I'm tired, I need to pep up.
And I know a lot of people, and I know a nutritional therapist who refers to some clients as their head is sort of totally disconnected from their body.
Yeah, I see that too.
And she'll be talking to them about their symptoms and things, and then they'll say, well, no, how are your guts? How's your tummy? Yeah, fine. And then she'll start probing. Actually, it's really not fine.
Yeah, they don't see it.
It's not fine at all. I'm almost to the other end of the extreme of I feel everything.
Me too. Very sensitive people over here. I do as well.
Everything.
Yeah.
And my body's always telling me things, and I feel everything, and everything not upsets me, but things that I eat or delicate. And actually, I think it was my husband that said that to me. I said, I'm always ill, and he's like, no, you're not. Actually, very strong constitutionally, very rarely, touch wood, get ill. So you notice things that no one else notices. And then you see it as I'm feeling ill.
But actually you're just tired, but you're feeling it.
Yes, or my hormones are changing, and it's my cycle, or I have eaten too much garlic, and for example.
Sugar.
It's
true. Which was seen as a bad thing, to be delicate and sensitive, but actually it's the opposite. And it can go the other way when it's too much and you need to get more grounded. But it's a fine line. But a lot of people are not really tuned into how they feel. In the UK, America's different and other places are different.
Agree.
But the UK, we're so not in touch with our feelings.
No. Italians really are.
Yeah.
So I think, you were saying earlier about there is Italian food waste.
Yeah,
and the Italians are very in touch.
Yeah. Fiery.
Yes.
It's true though.
Yeah, and they create such beautiful things. Like literally everything they do.
Yeah, no, it's amazing, isn't it?
Music, art, architecture, everything. Cars,
history,
food,
all of it.
clothes, everything.
Yeah, and here we're stale.
We're just very disconnected.
Yeah, it's very.
But also there's a sort of pride in that.
I know that's what it is. It's our grandparents' generation.
Stiff upper lip vibe.
Post-war. But then I think it was their pre-war.
I think it was pre-war.
Yeah. It's a long...
I think it's a very British
thing, going back. I wonder where that did start, though.
I don't know, you should know.
I know I should know, but I'll tune in on it. You say. You can explain why that makes sense.
So what's the other
holistic
reason it's called My Skin Feels?
So the reason it's called My Skin Feels is that I actually do professional psychic mediumship as well, which we have connected on, which a lot of people don't know what that is. Like I said it to someone yesterday and they were like, what? And I always think it's normal and it's so not normal. So shall I explain what it is?
Yes. So what I find really interesting is, and again, that disconnectedness, I get feelings from people or people, vibes.
vibes, yeah.
And I've always had that, and I'm always drawn to people or repelled, or I don't like that person, or I really like this person. And you came to a meeting with us, their biology.
7 years ago?
Maybe 7 years ago. It was before our rebrand.
It was just before. The year before, maybe.
Right, or a couple of years. Yeah, maybe 2018. Yeah. And this group of people arrived from the company you worked at, and I had an instant dislike for one of them. Yeah. And instantly drawn to you and thought, she's fantastic. I wish I would give her a job in an instant. And then never saw you again.
Yeah, weird, right?
Until...
I don't remember. Was it
just after the first lockdown, I was back in my office in Brighton on my own, and you were sitting outside in the co-working space, and I walked past and you went, "Oh, hi, Mel."
Hello.
And I was like, why do I know that face? Why do I know that face? And then you recounted that you'd been to a meeting, and I said, "Oh, I'm just going out to get a coffee. Would you like one?" Oh, yes. And you said, "Oh, I'd love a coffee." Yes. And I remember walking out thinking, I really like her.
Oh, thanks.
Just really drawn to you. And then we were in the same co-working space. This is my actually handy moment to give a little plug to this podcasting studio, because we're now in a co-working space called Projects in Brighton, in Nile Street. And this podcast studio is, and so I've promised to give them a little plug. It's very cool.
It's very cool.
And Projects is very lovely. Yeah. And I was just, I really liked you. And then we'd keep bumping into each other. And then you did some work for a brand called Asquith. Yeah. Made lovely, sustainable bamboo yoga gear. And then it was last summer.
Yeah, I think so.
And I can't even remember, but I'd started on a journey of some sort of spiritual awakening,
spiritual
let's
vibes.
say.
Yes.
And I was sitting in a meeting room.
You're on your own, weren't you?
On my own, and you tapped on the window and came in, and we started chatting, and you told me something that was going to happen.
Did I? I can't remember.
About that brand that you'd been working with.
Yes.
And I said, well, oh, right. And you said, I just know. And I said, oh, like a feeling. Yeah. And you said, well, I'm a psychic medium.
Yeah, just throw that out there.
And I got goosebumps, and I was like, oh.
What? She does what?
What? And then that was it. And then I'll hand back over to you, but and then I'll give my experience of your psychic mediumship.
Yes, so I know things sometimes. Basically, I was born like this. I basically would know a lot of things as a child that maybe a child shouldn't be picking up on. See a lot of things, hear a lot of things. I would just know when things were going to happen. Like a volcano erupting, and then it erupts, and I was like, that's weird. And it was really terrifying as a kid because I didn't know how to control it. So I controlled it with OCD. I tried. It wasn't OCD. It was just me trying to control my mind. I took myself to have a CAT scan because I was like, I'm obviously mental, and they were like, you're fine. And then I really kept it under wraps, and it's interesting why that has now come out as I've got older, why I felt like I had to. And then when I went to work for Charlotte Tilbury, she was the one who took me to my first healer, and again, fate comes into it. And in that healing session, I just burst out crying, and I said, I don't know why, I just know things, and I feel it all here. And she was like, don't worry about it, you're just psychic. Like, just took everything out of it. I was like, oh, there's a word. And then I did some research, and I found the College of Psychic Studies in London. It's a proper college where they used to...
no idea that even existed.
You need to come and check it out. They used to do all the scientific studies on people like me in the Victorian era. And now it's a place where you can learn and study and train. And it's it's the best, and I think it's the best in the world. Like, it's really good. There's two really big ones, and it's one of the big ones. And I've been training there for 6 years. And now I'm professional. I've been professional for 3 years. And I see, hear and feel. So the number one question always that I get asked is, read me now. Like, what can you read? And I'm like, it's off. It's like totally off. And that's what you learn. You go to train, so it's turned off. Because when I was a kid, it was on all the time. And then you need it to be quiet and mad because you want to have a fun life and you want to like enjoy things and not pick up on everyone's energy. And when you're young and you're trying to understand boundaries, and when you're already sensitive, it's tenfold worse. And being in that industry of fashion was horrific because I was feeling everything and everyone's stuff, and everyone's creative and crazy, and you're just soaking it in. So yeah, I learned how to turn it off. I learned how to train and how it works, and it's a whole other world. And then now on a Friday, do readings for people, which is crazy. I never thought I'd be doing that. But it does feel like my soul that's what I'm meant to be doing. And the thing I said about not being able to tell anyone when I was a child, I really feel that's because as women, I would have been burnt at the stake 50 years ago, 100 years ago. The last person who went to jail was in 1952. So it wasn't that long ago.
52?
Yeah.
For being...
Psychic predicting. Helen Duncan. Pretty sure.
And what was her crime?
She predicted one of the ships would go down in the war, and it did. And they thought she was a spy. She went to jail. Yeah.
Oh my Lord.
I'm pretty sure it's Helen Duncan. It was 1952. So it wasn't that long ago. So it's not been that new that we could talk about it. And do you want to know the craziest story ever? You do know this, but I think it's important to say.
Tell it.
I obviously dabble in lots of other holistic practices. When you're a practitioner, you've got to look after yourself. So I did a shamanic healing session, and I'd never been before, and I wanted to find someone that I could recommend to my clients when they need that work. She's an amazing woman in Rottingdean. I can recommend her. And we had a session. She said, what do you want to do? Do you want to have a healing session? Do you want to talk to your ancestors? What should we do? And I said, just go for it. Let's see what comes up. And we were in the session. We immediately went into a past life of mine where I was burnt at the stake.
Oh my God.
And when I came out of the session, she said, I saw you being burnt at the stake. And I said, me too. And she said, the word I got was run. And I was like, I felt that too. And then she said, it's now time for you to stand up. This is before I was out as a professional. She's like, it's time for you to stand up. You've got to start doing this work and being out there and talking about it. The next day, my Instagram got hacked. Like madness. It got hacked by a bot. And it messaged everyone on my Instagram being like, hey, I'm a psychic, book here for a reading. It's $50, a total bot hack. And I was like, well, I guess I'm out then. And everyone knew. My ex-boyfriend didn't even know, but everyone then found out. And so it then was like, it's time to talk about it. And now I just talk about it. And the amount of people that have been weird is 2%. Most people are like, oh yeah, I feel things too. Or oh, that's cool. My granny used to be like that. So It's becoming more normal. But the brand is trying to make it even more normal. So this is really dumbing down psychic mediumship, but making people understand the feelings.
The gateway.
It's the gateway into, and the more connected you are, just the more conscious you are and better you are as a person. So it's just trying to lift everyone,
I love that story about you're being hacked, because I don't know if you remember at the time you told me, about 2 weeks before, I'd listened to a random podcast that I never listened to that a friend sent to me, and I need to try and remember the name. I'll put it in the links. And it was a guy in America who's a healer, and he didn't know how to tell people. Yeah. And then he started getting these clients just turn up or just ring him. And he's like, well, how did you get my number and how did you know? And this was pre-social media. This was perhaps in the 80s. I said, oh, well, that little old lady told me about you. Oh. Like, which little old lady? The little old lady with the white hair. He's like, I don't know any. And then this kept happening and kept happening. And I thought it was the same thing as your bot.
Yeah, but different gen.
It's something was getting you out.
Yeah, it's time.
And I'd literally just heard that. Weird. And I was like, this is so weird.
It is weird. It's weird. It's mad.
Yeah.
But the thing that I've learned from all of it, and business too, all of it, is you just have to trust it and go with it. The more you resist things, the harder everything is in life. You just have to go through, jump in and just let it take you. Obviously, you always have control, but let it guide you the way you're meant to be guided. Don't resist it. And that's just psychic mediumship. Because I'm get completely out of the way in a reading, and it's not me. I'm just going with whatever's coming in, and that makes everything easier. So it's a real metaphor for life.
Yeah. Well, and I've been to you for some readings.
You have.
And they are honestly life-changing.
Yeah, thanks.
And I've said this to lots of people, and I've recommended you to lots of people. And I've had a lot of trauma and crap and all sorts in there, especially my childhood. And I had a lot of therapy. I have OCD, that was my way of coping. And lots of different types of therapy, CBT. And some of it's done something. But my sessions with you did way more for me in those 3 hours I think we had in total than all of that put together.
Thanks.
It is really, I can't recommend it enough. And I I can't even explain. It's very hard to explain to people why it's so healing. And I felt so, I mean, the first session I found quite hard, as you remember, and I thought I was going to pass out.
It's got a lot, the first one.
Yeah, I thought I was going to pass out, and then I thought I was going to be sick, and I have a fear of being sick, and it was all, and it's really hard to, so you have to experience it yourself.
Yeah, it's like being seen, I think. That's how I feel, because anyone who's a psychic medium, who's done the training and is credible, is able to do is see bits that people can't see. So I always see people a bit like a book, and there's like many layers, and I have to like move layers out the way and go under and around, and I get shown colours and symbols and stuff that I have to interpret. But it's just my way of getting into the soul of the person. And all those layers for me are like traumas or ages or different things that's happened to that person. I have to read each one very quickly to understand what's going on. And when I've had readings, I have readings all the time from being in circles, it's like they're able to see straight away. So for people that have never felt like they've been seen, or this work that they've hidden away, it's hard to hide it from a psychic medium, because the bit you're hiding is the bit that I need to get to. And that's what comes out. I feel that's part of it. And then the mediumship, I should just say, psychic is reading energy, hear what's going on, what's happened, what's going on around you, your book. And then mediumship is connecting with those on the other side. So however you view it, like you can view them as ghosts, you can view them as spirits, whatever your thing is of that, that's me connecting with them. For me, I just think I work with time. So time isn't real. And I feel like I can go into different time zones and go back and ancestrally and come back forward, all that kind of stuff. It's not like a ghost in the room, but you do feel them in the room. So the spirit and the energy and the soul of that person comes in. But it's not like Casper, which a lot of people...
No.
Yeah.
And there is no... I don't know. I don't feel their presence, but I know that they're there.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting to watch you as well, because you're managing them.
Like chaos sometimes.
Yeah, and especially my dad.
Oh, sometimes it's a room full of people.
Hideous.
Yes, and they stand in the room in particular places, so I know what's going on. So I have people in a corner, which means something to me, and then sometimes they'll get like 8 people, and I have to be like, guys, can you shut up?
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to...
Yes.
It's like managing chaos.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're really funny. And they come through and they crack a joke, and you have your guides that you work with. So I have like my team that I work with, and my team are quite funny. And so they say things sometimes, and I'm like, I don't think I can say that. And then I have to like say it in a different way. But the guy, my teacher, his name is Gary Wright. He is amazing, and he's like big life person for me, and he's really funny. And he's always made it not scary. And then I did have another teacher once say to me, Danielle, it's mediumship, not comediumship. And I remember thinking, if you're dealing with the dead, you've got to be a bit fun. Yeah. I remember being like, you've got to have a bit of fun in this. So my readings hopefully are not doom and gloom. They're quite... Not at all. Uplifting in a way.
Really uplifting.
Yeah, that's how it should be.
Really uplifting. And one thing you said to me, which came up in a work meeting last week with an agency we're working with on how we present our brand.
Nice.
They're very good. They're called Sonder and Tell. I'll give them a plug. They're very, very good. All female team, phenomenal, so bright, so brilliant. And the word cycle breaker, or 2 words, came up, and you said I was a cycle breaker.
Did I say that?
And the first one in my whole family.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I should be really proud of myself. And that was the changing moment for me, because it was the first time I'd ever felt good about myself.
Oh, interesting.
That was just last year.
Oh my God, mental.
Yeah, like properly good. Yeah. You know, I'm proud of some of my achievements, and I know I'm a good person, all those things, but on a real, and then when they said cycle breaker, I was like...
Because those words are weird together, right?
Yeah.
But that's the thing, I forget what I say. It goes in one ear and out the other.
Of course.
Otherwise you hold on to it.
Yes.
And sometimes I see people in the street and they're like, oh my God, how are you? And I'm like, why do I know you? Is it my skin feels like, what is it? I saw someone the other day and she's lovely, and I completely was like, where do I know her from? And then I have to be really careful, because you can't say what you do if their partners don't know or whatever, and whoever they're with. And then I was like, okay, I remember. But yeah, it's a whole different world.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's really cool. And what's really cool is that everyone in my we like did this course and we all came up together basically as professionals. There's like a lawyer, there's someone that works for like a big investment bank, there's a doctor, there's like someone that works on the London Underground. Like we've got like one of everyone in our group, and everyone's very normal and everyone's so lovely, and there's no egos. Like to get as far as we have as a group, you have to be that way. And I would trust all of them to read anyone. And I really think if you're going to book a reading, get someone that's trained.
I was going to ask you that. So,
please.
Because there are people who
ruin it for everyone.
Yeah.
Go.
How do you find someone good?
Go via the college or recommendation. Look for insurance. It's hard to get insurance. You wouldn't get insurance unless you've had the training. So everyone I know who's got insurance.
And where do you see like the proof of
on the
insurance?
Website? On the website. The thing is, you can't certify it. It's like, because it's now seen as entertainment. Because after the last woman went to jail, so it was illegal, and then to make it not illegal, it's now entertainment, which is very offensive. Give it 10 years and it won't be, but that's where we're at right now. So you can't certify it. There's no board. But the way of certifying it is by going through the training, like at the college or at an institution where you've actually got, like I've got evidence of me being there that many years. There will be a certification that comes in for sure. It's a hard thing to regulate. People don't want to believe it. It's a really common thing. Like these big institutions do work with people like me. It's just hidden on the underground. Like nobody wants to talk about it because it's weird. It's not. It's very useful. And like there's a whole part of the American army that we're doing remote viewing. Yeah. So it's like a real thing.
Is that the MK Ultra stuff? Or is that like the sinister piece of it?
No, it wasn't sinister. It was basically they had a project where they taught people how to remote view, which is basically like somebody could give me coordinates now and I could go to those coordinates in my mind and tell you what's there. I've done a course in it. It's fascinating. It's like really cool. Like somebody can give you a closed box and you can know what's inside the box. Yeah, it's mental. It's really cool, but you have to know how to do it and be that way inclined. And they had a whole part of the US Army doing that in the war to work out like what was there, who was missing. Yeah, and then they closed it down.
Why so I don't want to close it down?
I don't know. It's America. I don't know. Don't want to get all
conspiracy.
Maybe
they didn't close it down.
Maybe they didn't. Yeah. So it's time to talk about it. It's time to stand up for all the women that couldn't talk about it. That's what I feel passionate about.
I love that.
My whole body and soul knows that that's what I'm meant to be doing here.
Yeah.
Is that.
And since you told me that, then it made sense why I was always so drawn to you, I think.
Yeah, maybe,
that and you're lovely and funny and clever and all those things. But I feel, I just tell everyone I can about it because it's phenomenal.
It is important to do, I think, too.
I have asked you this before, obviously, but it must be a nightmare dating.
Yes, it wasn't fun.
Because most people have to wait a while to find out they're a twat.
Yeah, no.
Whereas you literally in the first second go, oh, what a twat.
Yeah, well, even on the apps. You just need to see a name or a picture.
You don't even need to be in
you
person, do
you? You just know straight away. So yes, it is interesting dating. It helps because I know the ones that are wrong and the one that is right.
Yeah.
But it does, it has been it's just been a different experience because everyone else goes through it and in a different way. Like I went through it already knowing it was going to be shit, but you can't just be on your own. So like you stick out with it for a bit. Even though you know it's not right, it's sometimes better to do that. But at least I knew that it was going to end. Or like, this is a short thing or whatever. Whereas my friends would then not know that. So they'd be in a constant cycle of like, what is this? Whereas I would always be quite clear. But I do have one of my best friends, Susanna, who's also an amazing psychic and came in my course too. We do a 10-minute check-in with each other quite a lot. So she'll do me a 10-minute check-in on something and I'll do one for her. So when I was in those situations, when you get in the way of like, maybe this person is right. And she's like, let me just check for you. It's not. And I'm like, no, I knew it. So she does like a check-in. So I have like someone like my best friend that helps. But yeah, it has been very interesting. And there was a point when I was 18 when it got too much. Just after I left Charlotte, I think I was just before or after, I can't remember. I remember being in my room and it's weird, but my great grandma came in the room, and I remember being like, "You have to leave me alone. Like, stop. I need this to stop." And for 2 years, it stopped, and I felt all out of sorts. I didn't know what was going on. It was like everything closed down, and for the first time in my life, I didn't have intuition, and it was like horrible.
Your skin stopped feeling
everything, my whole body, my whole skin, everything, and that's when I went to the college, and I was like, I need help. And I met my teacher actually at a trade show. when I was working for a supplement brand. And he came over and he was like reading me, and I could tell like what's going on. And then I went to the college and I saw him there again. He was like, we've met before. And he was like, when are you going to come and do my course? And I was like, in time. So I did a few pre-courses first, like learning about the basics, and then I worked with him. And he's known forever. Like we had to be on the same. He was like, I could see it. And he said to me the other day, he went past on the bus at High Street Kent, and he said in my class, he saw my face in the window, and he had a moment where he was like, I remember when we first met, I looked at you and you cried, and now you're in the window of Whole Foods. And he was like, from like a personal growth journey and a psychic and a business, like it's so funny how it all ties in together. Yeah. And he had a moment of being like, that's cool, because I wouldn't have been here without doing all that work. Right. So yeah, it all ties in, you know?
And earlier you talked about fate before everybody listening knew about this bit. So when you say fate,
what do I mean?
What do you mean?
For me, and you don't have to believe this, but for me it's already written. Like the story's already written. Which path you choose to go down, that's a different story, but you'll get to where you're meant to get to. And I just see that so much in readings, and I see it so much in people that haven't gone down their path or have been stuck at a certain point, and I can see the end goal. I'm like, it's right here, you just have to get there. But they don't want to get there and they get stuck. Or people that go down the wrong path and don't see the path but know they're going to end up there eventually. You're always going to end up where you're meant to end up. And I feel like you come into life, for my understanding, is you come into life with a lesson to learn, and you either learn it or you don't. If you don't learn it, it's almost like you've got to restart and do it again. If you do learn it, you learn and you move and you grow. So for me, each life is a growth, and each life is doing something for the next one. That's how my view on life and death. It doesn't just end. There's another one, and you keep growing as a soul. Yeah. That's my understanding.
Yeah.
Don't ask me where you go.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, it feels like that. And when you look at past lives, and when I do ancestral work, a lot of the patterns in people's behaviours are built in them because of ancestors, and they're almost past lives for them too, their ancestors. So it's all a big map, and you have to put it all together. But I do think everything's written. It's just whether you choose to do it or not.
And one of the things that I find really useful about our readings is you also do business.
Yeah, it's quite useful.
It's really useful.
It just pair up a little bit, yeah.
And someone said to me the other day, do you have a mentor? And I said, no, lots of reasons. But I do have a psychic medium.
It's funny, someone said to me, do you have a mentor? And I actually said, I think you...
Me?
Yeah, I feel like you're like a bit mentory to me. Yeah, I actually said that. They were like, who are your mentors? And I said, well, Mel from Bear Biology. I really respect her and what she's done. And you do give me a lot of advice. I know, so I did actually say that too.
Thank
you. Look at us.
Yeah.
Look at us go.
I'd hug you if I didn't mess up the microphones.
The mic.
But it is, which we wanted to cover, which is how women run business, and the whole intuition and going with, because what you were saying before about everything's kind of written, but there are different ways and paths, and perhaps because people listening might think, well, so where bad things happen, was that written? Or have you gone off your path, or was that written?
There's many factors, I think, with that. Yeah, also take it with a pinch of salt. Yeah. But it feels, when I say everything's written, like when someone gets ill, obviously that's not what I mean. But there's also many reasons why someone gets ill. So yes, unfortunately, sometimes it's genetic, and like that's unfortunate, completely and awful. But life situations and trauma and stuff that hasn't been dealt with is also part of that. So if you haven't done the work you need to do to help yourself, or if you're unable to get that help, that can also change the level of your path. Does that make sense? I don't want to sound like an arsehole when I say that.
No, that
about not doing the work
completely makes sense.
But I've just seen it in myself. In my peak of anxiety, when I was on the wrong path, I was really ill. And if I didn't shift myself into the right path, and thankfully I had teachers and people that could help. And if you don't have a support system, it's a nightmare. So this is very relative to people that do have a system of support and have the money to do these things. Like if you haven't got the money and the support system, it's a whole other ballgame. Which actually is why I think there should be some more support for that. So I don't know how you tackle that. But the end goal is always there. So when you look back on your life, I feel like you'll always be at a point where you're like, I understand how I got here, and this is why. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think, although there are things that weren't pleasant, that I would change
exactly
my life.
Yeah.
Because I've got and now it's brought me to this point here.
Yeah. Which is very difficult with medical things. Like, obviously they're awful, and like I would never say that, but I know exactly what you mean. When you've been through a bad spot and it seems awful when you're in it, afterwards you might be able to be like, that helped me get to here. That I understand why I'm here because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you either learn something about yourself, or it forces you onto a different way.
Exactly. Yeah. And I can always tell if this situation that's coming up right now, which we're about to talk about, like being a female in business, there's a situation going on now that if I took this, I would be on the wrong path. My whole body is telling me not to take it. Literally, I feel sick even thinking about it. And if I took it, I know I'd be going down the wrong path. And it's getting people to recognise those feelings. When your intuition is saying so strongly not to do it, don't do it. Because it will force you to get off that path somehow, and it'll be very uncomfortable. So it's tuning into that intuition too, or getting advice from people that have intuition. Yeah.
So I find that very helpful with you when I'm thinking about business decisions. But people say, oh, you know, how do you run your business? I just literally follow my gut instincts.
100%. It's, you know,
that's all I do.
Yeah. And what's so interesting, you've got 3 kids, and building a business is like having a child.
It is.
And so I don't know why we put all these structures in, and this is something, Anita Roddick is a big like inspo for me, Charlotte and Anita, and the Patagonia. I can never say his name. Yves Schroeder.
Him, yes.
Everyone has run their businesses on intuition, and it's like having a child. You know, you just go with your gut.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with the business. You can't put all these restrictions in. This is how you run a business. You go to business school to learn this, to do this. That's absolute crap. Run a business how you want to run a business.
Exactly.
It's your child.
Yeah.
And you have to treat it like that. It's going to grow. It's going to like mess up. It's going to do all these things, and you have to be able to go with it and not restrict it, and like have all these crazy boundaries and goals that it's good to have a goal, but like just come on.
Then getting all bent out of shape because you didn't hit the goal.
Yeah,
so it's just a made up goal.
Yeah, it's a made up goal, and you've just got to run business more like women, I think.
Yeah, with your gut.
Yeah, with your gut.
Because we probably can't talk about this decision.
We can a little bit,
shall we?
You're
basically you've got to decide whether to turn down £250,000 or not.
Because by the time this comes out, I would have done it. Right? It's
and a lot of people go, don't be mad, just take the money.
Yeah. So an opportunity came up. I applied for it. Got through to the final of one, and it's £250,000 to £250,000 investment in my business. The whole time we were going through the process, the calls I'd been on, I had to be a man in a woman's body. And they told me what I couldn't do, and they didn't tell me what I could do or what I have done. It was very negative the whole time. So I'm very surprised that I won, to be honest. And now they're pushing me to make a decision in 12 hours. But this is what I mean about my whole body knowing if I bring these people into my business, these energies are not right to fit these guys, then that is going to be, something's going to happen to make them leave. It's going to be very disruptive, and it's going to set me back. So even though it's like tempting to take £250,000, it's also, it would be a terrible idea. And having your intuition and using your intuition and not to be scared of that, I think is really important. And all women have intuition.
We totally.
Yeah. And so it's about trusting yourself and not relying on others to make those decisions for you.
Yeah.
Big business thing, I would say.
Yeah.
Someone, when I was a kid, they told me I'd only ever be an air hostess at school. And I was like, right, I'm going to clock that away. And throughout my life, I've clocked things away where people have said things.
Why do people say
Ex-boyfriends.
shit like
My
that?
ex-boyfriend said, why have you got a silly job when you're going to get a real one? No, I was freelancing.
What was your silly job working?
I was freelancing, and then I was working in Neal's Yard in Victoria Station because I was learning how to run a beauty business from a retail perspective because I knew I was going to launch one. And he said, when are you going to get a real job? And I remember being like, clock that away.
Well, hopefully whoever he's with now will listen to this.
Yeah.
And then
use your intuition.
See it.
Yeah, use your intuition on this one. I don't know. But it is, you do as a woman, unfortunately, in this generation, we have to fight. But I think we have to fight so that others, it's the same thing, just different generation, like the suffragettes before us.
There's always a fight.
It's always a fight. And one day, maybe there won't be a fight. But for now, I still feel like we're already in it. And it wasn't until that call the other day where I was like, right, well, we are still in it.
Yeah.
Having worked for Charlotte Tilbury, who would not take anyone, I never really saw it. All men are scared of her, which is great. And then actually seeing that person mansplain something on the phone to me, I was lost it. So yes, you have to use your intuition and know that what you're feeling is correct. I think that's the most important thing. If your body is reacting, it's correct.
Yes. And that's another thing people don't, again, I think they don't, if you're getting the butterflies,
the shakes,
or you feel a bit sick, or your heart rate goes up, or sometimes I feel slightly dizzy.
Yeah, off kilter is a word I quite like to use.
Kilter.
It's when I read it on someone, I see their two part, like the meridians, and I can always see when they're off kilter, they're slightly off their meridian. So I see it, and I'm like, you feeling a bit off kilter? And they're like, yeah, I don't feel right. That's the feeling. When it doesn't quite feel right, that's the feeling.
And I think a lot of people just poo-poo that. Just think, it's just a bit of anxiety about making a decision.
No.
It's not.
What's making you anxious? Yeah.
And when I've ignored my gut instinct, normally around people,
yes,
and at work,
yeah,
and I've thought, no, I'm just, it's just
me, it's fine.
Yeah. I was right, and I shouldn't have hired them, or.
But it takes time to learn that. It does. I think this is like, it's easy for me because it's been there forever, but it does take time to learn what they are. And some people don't feel that. Some people they don't have that ability in the same way. They might feel slightly uncomfortable, but they're not sure what that is. Like you say, they just ignore it. But then you have to learn from those things. So the next person that comes in that does that, okay, that feels the same. Why do I feel like that?
Yes, I remember this feeling, and having the confidence and self-belief to go, no, I am right. I'm not going to sort of gaslight myself.
No, exactly. It's the worst bit. Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And there's that bit of your brain going, no, being silly.
Yeah. Which is what I'm doing with this money. It's funny because I know, but then my brain is like, hang on a sec.
That's £250,000.
That could go a long way in your business. And then my body's like, what are you doing? So,
exactly.
And in that, and I've reached out to different people to help clarify this from a human level, like here too, just to make sure I am making the decision that I need to make. But you do get in the way. And this is why when people say, can you read your own situations? I'm like, you can, but not really, because you get in the way.
And egos get in the way, which is we also talked about yesterday, around egos can ruin businesses
massively. Everything.
Well, in everything, relationships. And in business, you have to put your ego away. And then that's when you can have a flat structure and not sort of these ridiculous hierarchies. And
just have like an open conversation.
Just, like we said yesterday, just talk like a normal human being.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand. And this was like with the call, it was so confronting and aggressive. And I don't understand why you're not just like, hi, this is me, this is what I do, this is what I like about your business, this is what I don't like about your business, how can we connect? Rather than like, jab, jab, jab. But that's the same in any business scenario. Why don't we just have a normal human conversation and make it, like, drop it down a level, rather than coming in and trying to push and fight and show you're, like, worthy of something.
Yeah, and the posturing. And
silly.
And I think sometimes it's which is maybe what this person was doing with you, a test.
It was a test.
Like, let's see what she's like under pressure.
Well, I showed him what she was like.
I'll show you what I'm like.
Don't press the bear, poke the bear, sir. That's what he was doing. But why do that?
Exactly.
You don't need to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah, silly.
And then they're sort of trying to pressure you into making a quick decision.
Yeah. Well, we've ignored his email now.
I think that's good.
I've ignored his email.
Good advice, isn't it? I was given this advice by my very calm, gentle husband.
Yeah.
He said, don't always need to reply.
No, so I'm not. And I would always reply, but I think that's a female thing. We always like to be on top, prove that we can do it.
Yes. Or I'll send a holding email.
Yes. No.
Because I'm very efficient.
Yes. And I'm not going to. I'm just going to leave it to breathe.
Let it fester.
Let it fester. Ferment.
Yes. I gave this advice to a mother friend of mine who had something very unpleasant happen to her son at school. And he didn't want to be a snitch. But she was very upset because he was physically hurt quite badly. And she said, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, what do you do now?
And I was like, I don't know. Because if he doesn't want you to say anything, you can't.
Yeah.
But I also understand as a mother, you want to go in there all like kick some doors down. And this person that's done this to him needs to pay. But he's also 16-year-old boy, and then I said, pretty much always the best, when you don't know what to do, the best thing to do is do nothing.
Yeah, to sit. Yeah, hold the space.
Hold the space.
Because I know what, Louis Theroux, I learned a lot from him in my readings, actually.
Oh,
Louis
yeah.
Theroux, if you watch an interview with him,
Yeah.
it's mega orcs, always.
Yes,
And
which is why I actually struggle to watch
I actually
him.
love him. But because he lets it get awkward and then he holds the space, because the other person then always breaks. And when I'm in my readings, I have to hold the space all the time. And sometimes I have to just not say anything and wait for them to react, because that's their pure emotion coming out. That's exactly what Louis Theroux does.
That's really interesting, because I find him hard to watch. I don't dislike him.
Yeah.
I find him hard to watch. So maybe I
Orcsies.
find that
Cringe.
because I'm like you. I'm you know, I use humour a lot, and I used it as a kid to make friends, to feel better about things at home, to try and lighten the atmosphere. So I've always be the comedian.
Yeah.
And so when things get awkward, I'm like, right, and my brain's going, right, crack a joke, find a joke, make a joke. Sometimes it's not the right joke, and it
lands funny,
inappropriate.
So we've got to hold, just let it sit. We could learn something from Louis Theroux. I did actually learn something from him for my readings. I was like, sometimes I've got to be like Louis Theroux. I just have to sit and let the next thing come up.
I love talking to you always.
Same.
And I hate train journeys to London, but yesterday was
a hoot.
so fun there
hoot.
and back. And I think the rest of the people on the carriage were probably listening to our chat, because it's quite weird.
We're mental.
The hell are those two weird women? I think it'd be great to get you back on, because we've barely touched.
I know, we've scratched the surface.
Yeah. In the meantime, where can people find you for both My Skin Feels and for the psychic mediumship?
So My Skin Feels online, myskinfeels.com, but also any Brighton people. It's in a few shops.
Wonderful.
In the lanes and in
Which
Hove.
shops?
So it's in Tidy Street in the lanes, and then it's at Saunadelic in the sauna in Hove. My pals opened a sauna. Love them.
I love saunas.
So when you go and have a sauna.
Saunadelic.
Yeah,
right,
it's in Hove Lagoon. And then it's in Lewis in Radical Giving.
Yes,
locals.
where I bought it.
Yeah, and then it's in Whole Foods, and then all online.
Whole Foods.
But I'm popping up at markets all over the place, so follow the Instagram. And then for me, it's just danielleclose.co.uk. And apparently if you type in Brighton Psychic, I'm now the person that comes up. I know someone called me earlier and told me that. So I do them on Zoom, so international as well. And then I work out of the Tree of Life on Portland Road. So if you're a Brighton local in Hove, you can see me in real life too.
And as I've already said, I literally can't recommend you enough.
Thank you.
So I feel like you're going to have a waiting list at some point, and then I'm going to be going, can you bump me up the waiting?
Yeah, I'll always bump you up the waiting list. Yeah, you get first priority, don't worry. That would be amazing. But yeah, you can find me there. And any questions about it as well. I think it's such a big subject. If anybody ever has any questions, you can always call, WhatsApp, email, phone.
And it's not something to be afraid of.
Not something to be afraid of. That's the thing. People always think I'm going to say
It's not like a Ouija
things.
board.
Never do a Ouija board. It's not a Ouija board.
No.
And there are legal things I cannot say. And I don't get the information. So I can never talk about medical stuff, but I never get that information anyway. I can never talk about anything to do with like doom and gloom. And I don't really get that information anyway, unless you give it to me. And that's not why you come for a reading. If you're a bit stuck or lost in direction or going through a breakup or don't know where you're going in life, and maybe some trauma you haven't quite dealt with and someone's just passed over, those are the reasons to come. And always come when you know. People always say, should I rebook, or like, how do I know when I'm meant to come? And you will know when you're meant to come. I hate like people that come every week. That's not the purpose. The purpose is to come, learn, put it down, come back when you need me. So I'm there when you need me, not as a regular thing. Yeah.
Love it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming.